All right, welcome to episode 3 of Grits and Bricks podcast. Got my good buddy Dan here.
Hey.
I've known for 24 years.
Yeah.
Since 2000.
2000. So you remember?
Yeah, 24 years. Daniel McCready in the flesh.
It's me.
Yeah, man. What I like to do is start off the podcast with a small, intro of you. And then, you just tell us who you are and what you do and what you got going on, man.
Cool. So, oh yeah. Is this thing on? Yeah, so I teach barbering. Been cutting hair since 2019.
Nice.
And I'm just a dude who kind of spent a long time trying to find his way, doing a bunch of like odds and ends for jobs and being excited about it at the time. And then it kind of
fuck all that. Let's bring it back to 2000 when we met.
Dude. I don't even know what to say. The first time I saw you,
I mean, we'll get to that later, but
God,
yeah.
But 2000, I was just like, I had stayed back half a year. So
I did.
Yeah, because it would have been 99 into 2000. And I was like a screw up in school all the time. I never applied myself. So they had me stay back half a year. So that second half of school is when you started Mr. Christensen's class.
That's what was that English?
English, yeah, freshman English. But that was my first like class in high school. You guys had already been there for half the school year, and then I moved up.
Oh no shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I had like you were like my first not from Allenstown high school friend.
Okay.
So yeah, at that point I was just being a goon. Spent a lot of time playing video games and chasing girls and just not paying attention in school. And so I don't know. I just always like to be the class clown. I was always making the dumbest jokes and trying to do adventurous stuff and not do my homework. And then I guess that's what happened in 2000. That's when we met. Prior to that, I was like super into X-Men. I like comic books and video games. And I was like really into like getting into skateboarding, and I like to do flips on stuff. Like I was like that kid. I was always like trying to do
flips like on trampolines and shit, or like
on the ground, trampoline, anywhere.
Okay.
Off stuff into water.
Like gymnastics.
Yeah. I think that was like a big part of that was me like trying to get people to pay attention to me. Because as a kid I felt like I brought myself up.
Okay, yeah.
So like my parents were like, they both weren't home until super late, and they would separate every so often, get back together, separate, whatever. So I was like, I don't know, I was like 4 years old in Canterbury, living across the street from a pond. So where Ray's parents live.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we lived in that neighborhood. My parents would not come home until like 7 or 8 because they'd work and then maybe like stop at the bar or something and then come home.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother, Derek, he's like 6 or 7 years older than me. And he'd be like, we'd get home from school and he'd be like, don't do anything dumb. You're good. He like taught me how to cook ramen on the fire stove. And then he would just leave. I was like a 4-year-old kid, like 4 or 5 years old. I think that went from
so
like.
if you were 4 and he was 7 years older.
He was like a 10 or 11.
Like,
and
where was he going?
He was just going to play basketball with his friends or just like whatever, gallivant. That was probably like from 4 years old to 7 years old that we lived there. And dude, like my brother taught me how to swim there because that pond, it was big. You swim across, it takes some energy. Obviously you've been there, but he brought me to the end of the dock and dropped me in. And he was like, hey, like, go ahead, swim. I couldn't touch there. And he was like, he would have saved me, obviously.
Right,
but
yeah.
I just like figured it out. And then a week later, I was swimming out to the island that's in the middle, probably like 200 yards across the water. So nobody was there. And I was like a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kid just swimming in that water with nobody to save me.
Jesus Christ.
After school. So that stuff early on really made me go like, all right, I got to have an imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked action figures a lot. Like I had so many, read so many comic books. There's no other kids in that neighborhood except for the people that come up on the weekends because they'd all come from Mass and everybody had cottages. So I was like one of the only kids that lived there year round. So if nobody was around, I'd just be like walking down the streets, whipping rocks at signs and like riding my bike and doing wheelies on it.
Dude, whipping rocks at signs was awesome.
I'll tell you what. You remember after high school, I moved to South Carolina for like a half a year?
Yeah.
They have no rocks there.
Like on the side of the road?
Yeah. Those.
What do you mean they have no rocks?
They have clay. Like everything's clay. I feel like the whole world there is just clay. So I was like near some water there with my cousin, and I was looking for rocks to just like whip at stuff because I love skipping rocks.
Yeah.
Everything I picked up would just like crumble because it was just like red clay. And he's like, yeah, this is just clay here. We don't throw rocks. I was like, this is that they're in the Bible Belt. So I don't know if that like God didn't like rocks. I didn't know what it was.
Well, didn't he come? Like, didn't you roll a rock over to come out?
That's what I thought. Like, thou shalt not continue to have rocks in this area.
I think it's in the Bible.
Yeah, it's Giuseppe 3:11.
I think you're right.
Giuseppe. I don't know where I came up with that.
Holy shit.
So yeah, I loved throwing rocks and just doing stuff like that, climbing trees and doing hood rat shit. Even though it wasn't the hood, it was the woods of Canterbury.
So wood rat shit.
Wood rat. Okay, I'll give you that.
A little knucks on that.
There you go.
There you go.
Lefty knucks. Yeah, I mean, after that, it was just it was a lot of just like figuring it out. I remember thinking I was a rebel, like 4th grade. I would go like to a friend's house in the middle of the week. Like I was just living with my mom at that time. And so she was going through it, we'll say. She spent a lot of time like after work. You'd stop at the bar and stuff. So it'd be like a Wednesday night. And I'd just like go to this kid's house and hang out. And his parents would be like, you can sleep over if your parents say it's okay. I'm like, yeah. Mom said it was good, man. I'm going to sleep over. And then I'd be like, and then people like, you slept over his house during a weeknight? Because we were like in elementary school. I was badass, dude.
Did you have homework to do, bro?
They're like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, dude. We played. I remember this. It was at this kid Dennis's house, and he had I don't know if you ever heard of Cool Spot. You remember like the little symbol? I think it was from like 7-Up or something, like a little red dot.
No, I don't know. No.
You might have to Google it, but there was a video game. And it was a shitty side scroller, but I just vividly remember playing that game so much at his house, and other people would be doing stuff at their house that I wasn't doing. Like they'd be like eating and like cleaning and doing chores, and I'd be like, I don't have to do chores, it's not my house. And like they didn't invite me to eat, so I'm just gonna play video games in this kid's bedroom. Like, I did a lot of weird kid shit. I didn't know any better, right? Nobody really said like, here's how you act. So that was like the whole first half of my life. Like we didn't move back with my dad permanently until I was in 5th grade. And then like everything went real rough after that. Cause him and I just all through
just
school.
Heads.
Oh dude, it was bad because he was of the mindset. He'd always tell me like, hey, don't have kids. Like, you don't want to have kids.
Like, you had me. What do you mean?
I'm like, yeah. I'm like,
what
but you got kids. Like, I don't get it. And he'd be like, they want everything from you. And, you know, so I always thought like having kids was like a punishment. So, so when we finally moved with him, there was like a lot of like button heads and having like just endless scream fights. And I was getting out of school, like school detentions and stuff. So when I moved in, like when we had moved in with him, this was in Allenstown on Chester Turnpike there. Like I started to get bullied because my mom was just buying like the cheapest clothes, or like I had clothes that were like a couple years old, didn't really fit, and they had like paint on them and stuff. Like, and kids were like wearing Jinko and South Pole and
Jinko, holy
dude,
shit.
Tiger Woods,
big ass wide jeans,
dude. Tiger Woods was like in his prime around that time, so everybody was wearing like visors, and I didn't have any of that shit. And so kids were like being shitty to me because I didn't look cool. They started calling me a scrub, and at that time, like that was a rough word. You know, No Scrubs from TLC was a song, so people call you scrub. You're like, I'm not, you know, but
I mean, at least you weren't leaning out the side of your best friend's ride.
That didn't happen until like years later when I started hanging out with you.
That's true.
But yeah, I think, you know, that stuff really molded, like that bullying, me being aggravated with my dad and starting to act out. All that stuff started to mold who I was because I wasn't getting the attention that was like positive reinforcement at home. So I'd go to the school and I would just need somebody to be like notice me or care that I existed. And then people were being like pretty rough to me for years. So I just started to watch what made people tick and listen to people's jokes and like take a little from everything. Like I was watching movies really intently as a kid, like mimic how people move or mimic how people talk or those types of things. And I realized like different facial expressions or different hand signals and stuff, like just the way that you move and talk to people like really affected how they treated you. So I just started to be funny all the time, like even at my own expense. If it was like I'm gonna get in trouble for this, I would still do it knowing it would get like a minute laugh. Like I know you weren't a big wrestling fan, but you know, back in like 6th grade, the NWO had just come out, and that was in like the wrestling company WCW, and they had like this big group of people that was in it, like a bunch of wrestlers, and they were all like the bad guys. And then the WWF or WWE now, they came out with the DX or Degeneration X, and like everybody was doing like crotch. They were doing like the crotch chop, right? Yeah, like a lot of that stuff.
I did that shit all the time. I had no idea what it even meant. I was just like, yo, check it out.
Dude, we were like, first of all, at that time, wrestling on TV was like crazy. I can't believe the stuff that they were airing. And there I am in 6th grade watching it, be like, oh my God. They're like, there's like this guy's saying puppies, talking about this girl's boobs, and everybody's crotch chopping. Yeah. And so I remember being in like 6th grade and just sitting, and I never paid attention. I hated the instructor that we had. And I just remember like looking around, and everybody was like paying attention, but every time she would turn her back, I was just like, she's not paying. She's writing on the board. I could do something hilarious, and then just like so. I remember like tons of times I would just like slide my chair out far enough, and then when she turned and start writing on the board, I'd jump up and stand on my chair and go like this, hit a bunch of that, like real quiet, like so hard that I had to hold my breath and like shake. I was like, and then
I can't wait till I put this.
Dude, me
this
too.
YouTube, by the
dude,
way,
I love that. I love that. Dude, if anybody else can relate, please comment below. And they yeah, so I like, and then I would like sit back down really fast if she like turned around, and I'd be super quiet, and like some people would giggle, and then she'd be like, her name was Mrs. Nugent. She sucked.
She sucked.
Yeah, I think that was her name. I don't even remember. I remember there was a Nugent that I didn't super like, but either way, 6th grade instructor, she got so many crotch chops to the back, and then
she doesn't even know.
And she caught me sometimes, and then I get detention for it. This is a lot of that stuff, but people would giggle, and then they started to know me as like, I thought it was like a point of pride to get like class clown award,
like in the yearbook.
Yeah, I got that stuff.
Class clown, dude.
Yeah, like here's Dan McCready, and then like the humor started to be like annoying to the teachers, because I always got the information. I just never did my homework. So anytime we take a test, I'd pass the test, and I'd do fine, like spouting off the information. I remember a couple times I was in the spelling bee. I remember I think it was like 5th grade. I spelled Massachusetts correct, and everybody's like, "Yo!" If I had a mic, I would have dropped the shit out of it. Like it was, it was awesome. I thought I was like king of the world, but then I found out that actually didn't mean anything. Like now that I'm an adult, nobody cares that I spelled Massachusetts. But
it's true.
It's true. But it's still a tough word at this age. But I just remember like always getting stuff in every report card or progress report. Teachers would be like, if you you know what you're learning and you do well on the exams and stuff, but you're not doing any of your homework, and it'd be like needs improvement, doesn't apply himself, or like a D or an F. So
like, what would you need to apply or fucking improve on if you're passing all the exams?
That's what I'm saying.
That's like the cumulative exercise
like,
of the course.
This is to prove
right?
you
It's like,
learned the stuff, right?
And you pass, and you did.
But you get like that's how we think about it now.
Yeah, now.
Right. But then it's like in middle school, it's like, did you do like this homework that you have every day, and you get grades on them? So if I just kept getting zeros or like, like did not complete or whatever, then, or incomplete, then it would be like my grade point average for that class would just like plummet, right? So I could get 100 on a test, but if you get 100 on a test, then you get 8 incompletes. You know what I mean? That brings you down to like, I don't know, 20% or something. That's math. It's been a long time since that's why I cut hair now. But so yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it was all through high school. So 8th grade, everybody was like talking about what classes they were going to sign up for, and they came to me and they were like, "You don't have to do that. You're staying here." And I was like, "What do you mean?" No. Dude, my dad was thinking about sending me to like a boarding school, like an all boys boarding school.
Jesus Christ. And
then I just remember like being so mad and throwing his own shit back in his face, being like, if you tell me not to have kids and you didn't want to have kids because of how expensive they are, why are you going to pay to send me to school when I can go to public school and you don't have to pay? And he was like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not cheap to have.
You got him good.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So, yeah, I mean, that was like the like those 4 years, 5th to 8th grade, really like set me from just being like kind of like a wise guy to like by 8th grade, I was like the kid who, if a teacher reprimand me and I didn't agree with it, or I was going through stuff at home, I'd like lose my mind. I was like that kid who'd scream at teachers, and people would be like my friends would be after they'd be like, "I can't believe you said that," like kind of laughing, but also like keep their distance because I'd be like wild. So when I stayed back half a year, it was kind of humbling because now I'm like this old dude in 8th grade, and everybody else got to do the 8th grade graduation.
There's like real consequences to your actions.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And they sent me to like the pride room a lot. Like they're like, you already took this class, and
pride room?
That's like the room where they'd send like the bad kids. Like they'd always, like, this is not the correct political term, but they would always call it like the sped room. Where like the kids who are maybe on the spectrum or like have some attitude issues, they'd send them there so the teachers didn't have to deal with them a lot. So like, get your homework, bring it there, and then like if like the instructor there, his name is Mr. Bride, which is weird. Or Brand. Bride. No, Brand. Oh, there was a bride. I think there was a bride there, but I think it was Brand. Okay. But he would just kind of like help out, and it was a little bit different for him there. Like you just sit and do your homework, and if you had questions, you could just talk to him. It wasn't like he was instructing on a board or anything. So yeah, dude, I halfway through the year, like that 8th grade 2.0 that I had done, I really like put it together because I did not want to stay there. I was embarrassed. I was like, everybody's in high school, like they're adults, yeah. I'm still here, not being 14. Yeah, dude, like yeah, they're not adults. So I really buckled down, did really well. They sent me up, and I got to high school, and I was like, holy crap. You remember, I remember, I don't know, not that he'll ever watch this. He's probably like in prison, but there was a kid. I remember my first day there. I like got to school. It's like looking for some buddies, maybe recognize a few people from like Suncook Little League who were at different schools, but I hadn't really seen any of my own friends. And, you go into the cafeteria in the morning until you figure out where your classes are. Right. And I went in there, and this kid was sitting at a table, and I sat maybe a couple tables away. The kid got up and went into like the food area, the nook, to get maybe like a bagel or something. Yeah. And another kid sat down. So the kid who got up, I think was like a sophomore or a junior. And I knew this kid from baseball. And then this freshman kid sat down. I don't even remember who it was, but the kid came back from getting his food, and he was like, "That's my seat." And there was like a bunch of other seats everywhere. So I was just like, this is weird. And I just started watching. And the kid was like, "Get out of my seat." And the kid was like, there's like 10 tables all around open. Like you can sit anywhere. And so this kid slid his watch down his hand and punched this freshman kid in the face with his watch on his knuckles like 5 times. And I remember he got like suspended for a couple weeks or something like that.
Who was that?
Alan Paquette.
Yeah.
And he was a good baseball player, but he was just an angry kid, way more angry than me.
Mm-hmm.
So dude, that was like my first day at school. I was like, oh, high school's crazy, right? Like we didn't punch kids with watches. This kid's from the hood. And I was like, actually, he's from Pembroke, not the hood. But so I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I remember it was like second period was Mr. Christensen. Mm-hmm. That's where you and I met.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of stuff from that class. Not a lot of it was English. A lot of it was about, it was where I found my love for girls' butts. And that's where I found like one of my best friends. And I realized not to judge a book by its cover a lot of times because, like I said, when I saw you, this is not the man that was there freshman year. Like I think every day you wore like a black t-shirt with a collared, like long sleeve white button up shirt that you like rolled the sleeves up and it was like kind of baggy. And then you wore like baggy-ish pants and like some skate shoes. And you had a skateboard every minute that I saw you. Like you would come to class, no books and a skateboard, dude. And I was like, what is this? Who is this kid? And then as I like started to like ask you questions or shoot the breeze with you, I was like, oh, all right, like I like this dude, like he's funny. Mm-hmm. Then we realized like we didn't live super far from each other, and you know, when I moved into Bear Brook, it was way easier for us to hang out. But I don't even remember the first time that we like really broed down.
I don't either. I don't know what. Yeah, I have no idea. Did we skate together at school or something? I don't remember. I have no idea.
Maybe you like ran your mouth to Christensen, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I can do this.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, but whatever it was, it went from I see this kid, and his name's Corey Kaza.
Dude, no. You know what it was? I brought my skateboard in, and I think he called me a punk or something like that.
That sounds right.
Because I had the skateboard and the way I was dressed. Mm-hmm. And you sat in front of me. Mm-hmm. And you turned around. I don't know what you said. You said something. Mm-hmm.
And that must have been.
And then, like, that was, like, the beginning.
I probably said something.
Of this.
I kind of always had, like, a smart-ass remark that hit. Like, for some reason, they'd always hit. Like, I probably said, like, oh, you punk. And, like, at that point, it was, like, just, like, an icebreaker. But then anytime, like, somebody said something and I had some snarky comment, they always, like, dug a little bit or made people laugh. And so I think that probably helped us kind of like buddy down because I don't know, whatever, we just had similar interests, right? And then as far as my memory is concerned, like I saw you and you were a stranger, and then it was like a year later we were like really good friends. Like I don't even know how the hell it happened, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember finding out that you were trying to do breakdancing, and dude, it was.
I tried to breakdance so hard, and I just could not get it.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
I got halfway decent.
I remember you doing some stuff, and I was like, okay. And I bet if people saw you back then, they'd be like, "This kid breakdances? Like, how?" But you were doing it.
I wasn't that good.
I mean, this is Pembroke, New Hampshire, though. Like, if you could put a leg down on the ground and then flip the other one around, and then like they just did this, and then you stood up, they were like, oh. So for them it didn't matter. But
yeah,
I think I remember like I would always go ice skating. Mm-hmm. Remember like at Tri-Town on Friday nights?
Dude, yeah, that was a fucking thing. Every time I drive by that with the kids, I'm like, "Go, me and Danny used to skate there on Friday nights."
Dude, I loved that.
Yeah, I could tell us every fucking time.
Yeah, like we know. Dude, what a dad thing.
I should take the girls there and like start it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I bet they'd love that. It was so fun because there's so many people from different towns and you just skate around.
Dude, that shit doesn't happen anymore. That type of like gathering.
Yeah, no.
And getting together in the community, and it's like, because dude, I didn't get a fucking cell phone until I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah. I remember when you got your first cell phone.
You know, and it was a track phone.
Yeah.
From fucking, I remember the exact store I bought it at was on Loudon Road in Concord at the fucking, it's right across from Cleary Cleaners.
Oh, yeah.
Gas station.
Yeah.
It's a different name now. But I went there, I had like like $20, and the phone was like $18, a track phone. You had to buy fucking units for it.
Minutes or whatever. Yeah, units.
Units.
I love that.
They were called units.
Dude. I remember for years, like through high school, I would like borrow my dad's pager. And that was just so that he could just like get a hold of me. Because you couldn't like, it wasn't one of the pagers you could like pager reply and like be like, here's the number to call me at.
Just a number that called you.
Like, that's it. It would just be like this number. And so then I'd be like, Dad's pissed. Gotta get a hold of that big dude, you know?
You remember Jeremy Corson?
Yeah. I
got a pager from him, like an extra one. And I was like, he's like, let me get that. And like, I had it and like, it went off one time, like on my belt, and fucking my dad and my mom, I don't know which one saw it. They're like, what do you have a pager for? Like, and the first thing they went to was like, are you dealing drugs?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what was in movies and stuff.
I'm like, no, like, I don't even know if this thing really works. Like,
yeah, you're like, who?
I'm just cool with it.
Like, nobody looks at you at that time and goes like, I need to buy some drugs from this kid. Like, you were like, I don't know. I just need a skateboard. The pager probably looked like it was a boombox on you. You were like 87 pounds, dude. You were just a little guy.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a cell phone until I moved back to New Hampshire after living in South Carolina.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You're like your mid-20s?
I was 19.
Were you?
Yeah.
Was that long ago?
Yeah, because it was
shit.
It was like we go to. I went to South Carolina. I lived with my aunts. I lived with my aunt. I came back.
Yeah.
And I came back when my parents got married, which was
after a million years.
This is 2005 in January.
Yeah.
My parents got married the year after high school, and then in March, you and I have been hanging out as much as we could. And then in March, that's when we went to Rhode Island for that concert.
Taste of Chaos tour.
No,
the one?
No, it was when we saw Jimmy Eat World and Taking Back Sunday.
Oh.
And like the format or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there was a format. I don't think they're called the format anymore, though.
I'm unsure.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break.
Yeah.
Let the camera cool down.
Let's take a break.
I got a fucking piss. All right, so took a little break because the camera likes to overheat, and I gotta shut it off and let it cool down.
Overheating camera.
All right, cool. We got a 28-minute timer on the screen right here. You guys can't see that shit, but
it's like 43 screens in here. Like you're
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
I guess 4 on the
carry the 40
and bring the 1 over, but divide by 2 and then add 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you take what you have, you cut it in half, and then you double it, then you're good to.
That's true. That's what
I'm here. I'm a problem solver.
Yeah. So where we left off, you were in South Carolina.
Well, so came back from South Carolina.
Okay.
And down there, I like my dad kicked me out, and I had like in high school, Dad kicked me out, and I moved in with the Merrills.
Oh yeah, Brad and Kara
Merrill. Yeah, their parents owned a construction company. Had a cool house, dude.
The house was fucking huge.
I lived in a mansion. It was.
Dude, they lived on Kara Drive,
dude. It was Kara Drive after Kara Merrill. Like the dad named this cul-de-sac of beautiful homes.
That was a boss.
And their house was like on top, and it was like the castle in the neighborhood.
I remember, like, I think their RV.
Yeah.
It was like under
they had a special RV garage
that is big
door.
as my fucking house.
Dude, it was like two car bay and then like an RV bay that they fit their $100,000.
What are they doing now, Brad and Kara?
Both have kids, both significant others, both they're doing well. Brad,
that's awesome.
Brad married a Macris family member of like the seafood place. Yeah,
no shit. Cool.
But yeah, they're doing great. Seems like things are going cool.
Yeah, I liked them. They were cool people.
Their dad was always great to me, and obviously mom too. She was the one who was like, "Yeah, we'll take you in." And if ever like I cross paths with her, I'm shooting the breeze with her. Like, dude, she's so sweet to me all the time.
Yeah, they were good people.
So yeah, I did that because the old man kicked me out. So then it was like summertime, and they said, "Hey, this summer we're going to do some family stuff." Stop touching stuff.
I'm good. Don't worry about
it. All right. They're like, so we're gonna do some family stuff, and like we love you, but you're not going with us. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. Talking to my brother, he's like, go move with Aunt Barb. So I moved with my aunt in South Carolina. I had 3 jobs there. I worked at this place called Red Brick Pizza.
Wait, hold on. South Carolina, came back.
Not yet. So South Carolina, I'm there. I work at Red Brick Pizza, and I learned how to like make brick oven pizza. Cool skill to have.
Okay.
Then
continue.
I left there and started working at this golf course that my cousin worked at, because I was like, this sounds cool. I had sort of hit some golf balls, and I was like, I'd love to learn how to do this. So I started working at the golf course, and I learned a lot about, like, because I worked at the bag drop. So I would talk to the dudes that were the groundskeepers every morning and ask all these questions. And that's kind of where I started to learn to like sort of schmooze people, because like
schmooze people.
Like this course was really nice. It was in TKK, South Carolina. There's like 3 9-hole courses there. And like dudes would show up in their super exclusive luxury vehicles and come out and put their bag down. And I was like, at first, I just like take the bag and put it on there, scared. Like, I won't mess up your golf clubs. But then I realized, like, if I start telling them shit about the grounds, then they start tipping me more, because they give me like $5 to put the golf bag on the cart for them and get them all ready. But then I'm like, oh man, greens are moving slow today. Groundsman told us, like, because the dew this morning, it's a little wet, so you're gonna have to let them roll. And then people be like, oh, thanks. Like,
which sounds like it makes sense, right?
Right.
I mean, it does.
For sure. Because I played golf a lot while I was there. And while I was working, I'd like play golf at the end of the day almost every day. And I learned so much about the game and the idea. And I was like at that time, I had longer hair. I was wearing like skate shoes, like tight pants a lot.
Some sick out at knees or
something to that effect. I think when I moved there, I actually think I had some DVS shoes at that time. And everybody else there, like in the South, if your shit don't have pleats, like you're not doing it right. You know what I mean? Like they had pleats on everything. Their hats had pleats on them.
It's the pleats.
Dude, it's the pleats in the pants. So I had to learn to get these people to trust me. And like, I almost had to like prove to them, hey, just because of how I look, or maybe just because of how I talk, because everybody else is like, hey, ma'am, how are you? Well, I'm some sweet tea. Like all of that stuff. Like, and that's not to make fun of them. Like they just sounded like that. But I had to make it work, because people were calling me Yankee. A lot of people didn't respect me because I had like a New England accent at the time. Yeah. And so I made it work.
At the time, did you change it?
Well, I feel like back then it was cool. It was like cool sounding to me to be like, oh, go get your car. Like I sometimes that, like if I'm around my family, that comes out a lot. But then that's not how I typically talk. I would just say car. Yeah. Like, go get your mother, whatever. What is this garbage?
What is this garbage? Go get your mother over there.
Yeah, your mother. I don't care. So I think like as I spent more time there, more people started to be like, oh, like, this guy looks a little different, but he's all right, And that kind of made the story for a lot of my adult life, because I learned some schmooze in there. After I stopped working there, I worked at a fancy Italian restaurant briefly, where I had to like, dude, it sucked. It was like a 2-month thing, and then I moved.
Well, when you moved, I had no idea what the fuck you were doing. What year was this?
I moved in 2004, like right after high school. literally like high school finished. I did not graduate. I went all 4 years, but I didn't have enough credits. They said, you can come back next year. And I was like, I'm probably not going to do that.
Wait, did you not graduate?
No, I didn't walk with anybody. Like I've never, the only
Do you have
thing.
a high school diploma?
Yeah, I got the GED.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, when I came back.
So 04 you moved.
Like,
what was I doing in 04? It was just random shit, random jobs.
Yeah, you were doing some stuff that I probably wouldn't say on air.
Oh, yeah. There was a short stint where I was doing some things and some activities that weren't.
They were erroneous.
Erroneous activities. Different podcast.
Yeah, but you were doing that thing. I moved, and like my aunt didn't have good internet. Like AOL Instant Messenger was how we talked.
Fuck yeah, dude.
And dude, I remember sending letters back and forth to Melissa Winship. She was like a nice friend of mine. Like it was weird.
Oh my god. Oh, that's the sister of
the younger, yeah, Christina, who's in our grade. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, okay.
Love both of them. They're very, very sweet. So I work at this Italian restaurant where I like do table service. I like have to bring the bottle of wine over and like pop the cork if people bought it and like put the cork on the table in front of the man so that he can like smell it and then give him a sip and he can like sip it and act like, yes, this is the bottle I want. It was like a weird facade, but people spend a bunch of money on it. After 2 months, I hated it. And my,
hold on. So you gotta put the cork in front of the man at the table?
Yeah.
What? There's 2 men.
Whoever asked for the bottle.
Okay.
You would give it to them.
You put the like cork here in front of them.
You pop it. You're like, here, bitch, smell this. They're like,
here, bitch, right. Smell this. You just shove it in his fucking nose.
Yeah, and it was weird, but okay. So I learned a little bit about that aspect of it because it was like more high end dining, and then my mom, I wasn't talking to my dad. I didn't talk to him since he had kicked me out, and in that time he actually had a heart attack.
Oh shit!
I was pissed. Like nobody told me. But also, I didn't want to keep not talking to him, but he like hated my guts. So I would talk to my mom sometimes and I'd be like, well, just tell him like to stop being an asshole face, you know?
Asshole face.
And she would be like, I know, I'm stuck in the middle of it. And I was like, I get it, Mom. She probably didn't talk like that. You know how Eileen is. She's probably like, I fucking know, Dan. Right? Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? So that's how my mom is. But so she's like, we're getting married. I was like, I'm proud of you. You want me to come? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I think I've overstayed my welcome at Aunt Barb's. Why don't I come there? She was like, okay, yeah, he can move in with us. Didn't tell my dad. My parents got married in some lady's living room that I didn't know. So my dude.
Hold on, wait, what? Your parents got married in some lady's living room you didn't know.
Yeah, so
some random fucking house somewhere.
In Allenstown. Down the road from Allenstown Elementary. So my mom, I'm like, where are you getting married? She's like, my friend so-and-so. So I jump on a plane. I fly to Boston. I get on a bus. I go to Concord. I get a ride from Concord to this lady's house and I get dropped off. And I don't know the woman and I've got like a luggage thing of like all my belongings. And my parents show up like an hour late. And so I knocked on the door.
Has no fucking clue who you are.
Never met me a day in her life. I knock on her door and she's nice and she's like, yeah, you can come in. I was like, is Dan and Eileen here? She's like, no, not yet. Who are you? And I was like, I'm their son. I'm here for their wedding. And she's like, oh,
your living room?
She's like, I didn't know that you were. I didn't know what to expect. So, dude, I sat on this lady's couch and didn't speak to her. I like try and be nice, but it was so awkward. I had like a suitcase, and it was weird. And then my parents showed up, and my mom was like, "Hi," and my dad was like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Surprise, Pop! Like I'm here to see you get married." And Mom didn't tell you that I'm moving back in. And he was like, "Oh, she didn't tell me." Mind you. And if I've never told you this before, I can't believe it, but my mom showed up. Like my dad had like a shirt similar to this. I remember it was like kind of orange and brown pattern.
Okay.
and some khakis and some like white New Balances.
Of course.
Yeah, triple E wide. No grass stains on these though, because this is wedding day. My mom showed up in very similar shoes. Light wash, like
I'm picturing in my mind
dude,
what your mom showed up in, and I think it's gonna be pretty accurate about what you say.
She showed up in light colored, like really light wash denim, like probably still had them from the 90s.
That makes so much sense.
And a long sleeve white Harley Davidson shirt.
Fuck yes, dude. I knew it.
And she's like, I wore my white one because it's my wedding day. And like she was so proud that she got married in jeans and like New Balances and a fucking white Harley shirt. Oh, man. So I stood there thinking it was like I had like a collared shirt on. I was like kind of dressed nice.
You're like, these are my parents.
I was like, this is gonna be a ceremony, and the lady's like, so you guys think you do this stuff? Yeah.
So I imagine. So the woman whose house you're in,
dude, we're in
a justice of the peace. I imagine.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, she's not like
she's ordained or whatever.
I don't think she I don't think she was a woman of the cloth. I think she was just somebody who was like a justice of the peace that Eileen probably worked with at like McLean's. Something like that.
Fucking story,
yeah,
dude.
we don't have to get into that, but
yeah. Oh my god.
But so it was like something like that. So I'm at the stranger's house. My parents get hitched. I get in the car with them. We leave, and my dad. I'm trying to like be. I'm like, oh, it's been like over a year. Man, no, not over a year, but it's been plenty of time. Like, why don't we just like let it go and kind of connect it? And he didn't talk for like the whole car. Like it ended up softening for a little while. Everything was cool, but it was like so awkward when I first got there. Like they bought that house in Boscawen and I had never been in it. I was like moving into a house I'd never been in. I lived in the basement.
That actually was a pretty nice house.
It was a cool house. I was like, yeah.
I remember that house. You started working, I don't know what the timeline is, but you started working at McLean with your mom, right?
Yeah, like pretty shortly after.
Yeah, and then you got me a job there.
Yeah.
And we were fucking ripping around the
warehouse. We had like the double pallet forklifts that you ride on.
Snacks and whatever the
fuck
they were. Yeah, it was
like candy warehouse.
Yeah, the candy warehouse. Yeah.
Picking orders for like Walmart and shit. And and I did a lot of like labor odds and ends. Then we went to Rhode Island in March, and that's where I met Margot. Mm-hmm. I started dating her. And
Rhode Island, was it a concert?
Yeah, we went to the concert to see Taking Back Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Jimmy Eat World, the Format.
Oh dude, what a good fucking show.
Yeah, I remember that night was so cool, and then because I was all hyped, I was like, oh, this girl likes me and cool, and then. We were staying with Van Hayes because he was going to Dan Van Hayes. He was going to college there.
Johnson and Wales.
Yeah, so we were going to Johnson and Wales, and at the time it was like, dude, we're gonna go party, and I was like already smoked from the concert. So then it was like we got to him, and he was like, let's go to this house and this house, and I remember being so tired. I was like, can I just sleep in the car? Like that. The rest of that night when we got with him, I don't remember what happened. All I remember is. I slept in the car a bunch while you guys went into somebody's house and probably like hung out.
I don't remember. I remember being there, but I don't know what we did after that. I have no clue.
Smoked weed.
Probably.
And then after that, I just remember waking up early in the morning. We got in the Cutlass or whatever you were driving at the time. I don't know if it was the Cutlass. It might have been
the Ford Explorer.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say the Explorer. Yeah. Then we drove
the '97 Ford Explorer.
Dude.
Ford Explorer.
That was something else. All your cars. And then we drove back home, and that was kind of it. I started talking to Margot a lot.
Yeah.
Dating her. So she's the reason I went to college. Because
she lives in Maine, right?
Yeah, she lived just over the border in Maine. So she was like, I'm going to college, and if you want to stay with me, you have to go to college too. So I was like, and she was going to go to Orono. And she said...
Which is way the fuck up there.
Yeah. And then, like, she thought, well, if you go to SMCC, because she was like, if you get your GED, you can probably go to community college. And I don't know if there's not one up there, but she's like, I'll go to USM. So her family hated me because she decided to go to USM. I was like, yeah, I'll go to college. And that was kind of the trend for a lot of stuff in my life. Yeah, I'll totally do that, but I would never do it because I didn't want to take on like debt or like be like stuck in something because I suffered from impermanence. Like that was my whole life growing up, right? Like something would just be super temporary. Then my dad would move out or whatever. Like it was never anything permanent. I moved from school to school and a bunch of shit early on, and then like nothing ever seemed like it stayed, or I was told like we'll see or maybe a lot, and then like it was never that way. So when she said you're gonna go to college, I was like, hey, yeah. She's like, you just got to get your GED, and I was like, I totally will. And like 2 weeks went by, and she's like, did you sign up for the GED yet? And I was like, no. So I did. I wasn't mad that I did. I got it. Went to the course for like 3 weeks, and they're like, this is like a 2-month course. And I think you had to go like 2 nights a week or something like that. And after 3 weeks, I was like, can I just take the exam? Because like I know all of this stuff. And I took the exam and I crushed it and then got my GED. And then I signed up for college and I went to SMCC in South Portland, Maine. Got up there, started working at Blockbuster.
Holy shit, Blockbuster when they're still open?
Yeah.
Is there any open right now?
I think there's one left in the country. It might be in like Portland, Maine or something. I mean, not Portland, Oregon or something like that.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And then like after college, I went for 3 semesters and it was very similar to high school. They were like, hey, like you owe us a shitload of money, but you've passed nothing. And it was because all I was doing was just fucking off. Dude. So her parents had bought a house in Milford, and then they were like, let's do this fixer upper. And so her and I moved into the fixer upper once it was fixed up enough to move into it. But while we were living with her parents in Milford, I was working at a car dealership in Maine. So I was driving like an hour something every day and learning to sell cars. And dude, that shit changed me forever.
Selling cars?
Yeah. Like I still say stuff to my students to this day that the guy who taught me to sell, I sold that Dick Bourneval Dodge Chrysler Jeep, and they have this trainer who was like a rompum stompum old school car sales guy. His name was Sid Porter. And when you talked to him, you thought you were talking to like a manager in professional wrestling. Like everything he was saying to you was like a swing. Like you were just like almost in a trance from how this guy would talk to you. But he would always be like, and I'm just trying to load your lips so that you know what to say to them. And like, I remember using a line of his and I felt so powerful that he kind of taught me like you can manipulate conversations or people's behavior just based on what you do. Like he'd be like, you want somebody to go with you? He's like, you just say, come here, and you just turn and walk away. He's like, they'll just follow. They don't know why, but they'll follow you. And I was like, that sounds crazy. And then I started doing it and people would just follow me. Even if they were like, I don't want to get in the car. I don't want to try the car out. I just want to know how much you sell it to me for. And I'm like, all right, hold on. Stay right here. And I go get the keys. And I just come out and pull the car out. And I'm like, here, hop in the car. And like, I don't want to get in. I'd be like, stop acting like a buyer and get in the car. Like, oh, all right. And then I get in the car. I remember a dude came in and he was like, how much will you sell me that black truck out there for? And I was like, what black truck? And he's like, the one right there. I was like, I'm colorblind. Why don't you show me? Because he wants me to just
colorblind. Dude, that's fucking slick.
Right? Because I was just like, why are you acting like an asshole? Like, you want to talk about it? You're coming in here trying to swing dicks. Let's talk. And he looked at me like I was I was like 22. I just saw me as like this punk kid. So I was like, I'm colorblind. Why don't you show me? And he stopped and he said, who the fuck are you? And I said, I'm Dan McCready. Who the fuck are you?
Just like that?
Yeah. And he stopped, and I had a tie on, and he stopped, shook my hand. I got these fucking baby hands. He shook my hand. He was like a construction guy. Had a baseball mitt. I had a strong handshake because I had small hands. I had to like overcompensate. So I'd be like, but so I shook his hand, kind of stifled his like bravado. And those guys were the easiest. Like as soon as you're like, hey, shut the fuck up. You want to buy the truck? And then I showed him the numbers. He bought it for all the money with all the add-ons and shit like that. And it was just like that started to feed this weird ego. The first year that I sold cars, I made like $70,000. And in 2000 and I don't know what's that, 2006 or 7, that was like sick money.
Mm-hmm.
And then everything crashed. Like the market crashed. Like, you know, that's when there was like a shitty recession. Everything went bad, right? I remember like selling so many cars there, and I was the youngest one, and like he had 3 dealerships. I was the youngest one in all 3 dealerships. Like they give you a list of the top salespeople, and all of a sudden people started to hate me. Like there's a guy who worked there for a lot of years and did pretty well, and I started to sell more cars than him, and they started sending me in to close his deals.
Close his deals?
Yeah, because he couldn't close it, and they'd be like, "We already gave him enough money. Go in there and make him buy the car." And he'd be like, "I'm telling you, like, you give us this monthly payment, you give me like 2,000 more off, and he'll buy it." And they'd be like, you know, they called me Junior. Junior, go close this deal. And I was like, I thought I was a hot shit. So I'd be like, you got it. And I'd go in, and I would just literally read the same shit that they said. I'd be like, so with your good credit, this is what you're going to be looking like for your monthly payment. Why don't you go ahead and sign here? And they'd be like, well, I already sent them. Like I said, I'd do it for this. I'm like, well, you know, I get it, but you're not going to get that deal. This is the deal they're offering. So you can sign it and be like a lot faster, or we can just keep going back and forth and pinch pennies. But like, you know how this goes. You sign right here, you know, something to that effect, something that's like just very matter of fact, and be like, stop acting crazy. And they would just buy cars from me. It was like I had a fucking Jedi mind trick, dude. I just didn't matter what it was. Or like you try and be creative, right? So that's where I learned like some creativity. This old lady came in. She's looking for a Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
We had the same Jeep, like all the specs that she wanted, but she wanted black. And we had canary yellow.
That's
like,
quite the difference.
That was like, what, right? So
like total opposite side of the fucking spectrum.
So I had remembered like this dude being like, it doesn't really matter. You can't see what the car looks like from the inside. Once you start to drive it, you kind of don't even think about it, right? And I was like, good point. So I was like, all right, like we have this Jeep. It's all the specs that you want. Let's drive it. And she's like, okay. We drive it. She comes back and she's like, okay, like I love it, but I hate the color. Can I order one? And I was like, hold on a second, because you don't get paid until it's delivered from the factory. It takes them forever to send them the car. Mm-hmm. So I want to get paid now. I want them to take the car. I want to take they take delivery of the car now. I'll make some money. Mm-hmm. I ran into the office. I talked to one of the office girls. Please print me this picture. I go back out. I say, let's take it for another drive. And he's like, oh, okay. And I tape a picture of the same Jeep, but in black, to the dashboard. And she laughs. And then we start driving, and she keeps looking at it as we're talking. And I'm making jokes about it. And she's like, you're crazy, blah, blah. And then we get back and we park, and I go, did it feel like you were driving a yellow one? And she's like, now that you mention it, no. Like every time I looked over there, I just felt like I was driving the Jeep I wanted. I said, if I can get you somewhere you want to be with monthly payment, is that something you want to do? And she's like, yeah. Like, I think that gesture of going a little extra mile for her, kind of being silly and creative. She bought the Jeep. And I remember like 4 months later, came back with her daughter, and her daughter bought a Jeep for me. And when she came back in 4 months, she was so hyped because she still had that picture of the Jeep taped to her dashboard.
Oh shit. That's fucking
creative.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just, you can tell people to believe something, and they just believe it. Like, that's what they taught me. I mean,
she looked at it and was like, this is a black Jeep.
That's it. Like, people would be like, you got a yellow one. She's like, I just feel like I'm driving a black one. The dealer, the car salesperson did this. And that's a story for her. You know, like that experience, like things are experiences more than anything. So I found that out. And so I left car sales. I had a falling out with Margot, worked labor job, worked this and that, retail, and started moving up to retail management. I, moved to Minnesota, worked at the Mall of America, and saw all these different levels of shit. But I never felt like that's where I wanted to be. Like, I liked the idea of sales, but I hated having to hit quotas. I liked the idea of like retail because I was a fan of like the feeling people got from purchasing clothing that made them look or feel good. Mm-hmm. I got into like I worked at Dish Network for a little while where I was doing like in-home services. You know, it feels cool to go to somebody's house, install something, and they're like, you did really nice work. So all these things mashed together, but none of them ever hit all like the points that I wanted. So I always loved music. I thought tour managing was the answer. And that was fun. You have to run around the country and babysit bands and whatever. But like you don't have like it wasn't consistent for me. Like I never hit like the you're gonna do 5 tours a year, and you know when you're home you can just relax. It was like I do 2 or 3 tours a year, and then when I got home it was like I got to work at fucking Dos Amigos, or I got to work at Chipotle or some place like that to like have money in between. And those aren't careers. I didn't want to work at those places. I know our timer's coming up, so I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
touch back on this.
Yeah, for sure.
So